Welcome everyone to a very special episode of The Blame Game. I'm Mark Z, and since the LCS was off this week, we'll be looking at games from IEM. Now don't worry, I'll still only be talking about games from North American teams because, let's be honest, I have no idea what's going on in the rest of the world. I mean, I'm an American, what do you expect? Just kidding, of course, we'll actually be looking at a variety of different topics. I want to start with a game that caused one of the largest reoccurring Reddit comments in the event, so we'll be looking at Ever vs TSM. TSM gets aced 35 minutes into the game, allowing Ever to make a crazy suicidal push-up mid to end the game. This caused Reddit to blow up with blame at Summoner's Rift, oddly enough, for having long death timers and paper turrets, allowing the game to be decided off one team fight. First off, how is the game decided off just one team fight? TSM either lost or barely won 6 different team fights with a massive gold lead. Every team fight that they failed to decisively win contributed to the final fight at 35 minutes because it allowed Loken to become a real threat. TSM's lack of focus in the final fight, as well as having low mana and missing some critical abilities, causes them to lose that fight. The second point is that the following push from Ever was not a standard push at all. It's pretty uncommon to have 2 cannon creeps in a single wave mid, and they're able to use that to push to victory. It was also an extremely gutsy call because if the push was a couple seconds slower, TSM would revive and ace them. Most people agreed TSM didn't really deserve to win that game for how they played, so I'm not sure why people are getting so bent out of shape about it. If we were consistently seeing teams that deserve to win losing off a single late game mistake, I would agree we have a problem on our hands, but that's not the case. Let's pretend this was an even game and a similar team fight occurred, allowing Ever to end the game right after. Great! In previous seasons, a fight like that would effectively end the game by giving Ever a massive gold lead in Baron, turning the rest of the game into a formality, barring a massive mistake from them. So I'm fine skipping the last couple minutes where the losing team bleeds out and we just end the game. Speaking on the competitive level, I'm fine with where death timers are now, though I'm open to some tweaks. A lot of people attribute the death timers and weak turrets as the biggest problems in the meta, but I don't think that's true at all. First off, level 1s are super binary. Duo lanes are basically forced to start a camp to hit level 2 for laning phase or go interrupt the other teams, which severely limits jungle's starting paths. Top lanes and jungles almost always start together because of this, and also in case of a 2v1 where they want to be grouped together anyways. Jungle camps being shoehorned into not giving level 2 to laners also hurts because top lanes now need to start on the far side from AD carry so that they can walk to lane. Early game is further hampered from an extremely brainless version of the 2v1 where tempo is king and teams are generally punished, God forbid they try and kill anything that isn't a turret or side objective. This is probably the only part of the game where the weak turrets hurt it, but most of the people complaining about paper turrets were complaining about the late game problems they pose. No one freezes lane level 1 anymore in 2v1s because of the level 1s and also because of these turrets. Sayonara to the days of a AD carry going 1v1 against a top laner or a support and top dual laning together. However, the biggest issue by far is that side objectives just don't matter in the early and mid portions of the game. I can't remember a time in my 2+ years coaching that I was so willing to advise players to not start or contest a dragon. In previous seasons, recalling, prepping, and fighting over a dragon minutes before it spawned was critical to winning the game. These days, Rift Herald and Dragon actually mess you up, so you don't want to start them unless they're free or you're strong enough that it doesn't matter and you'll win the following fight anyways. That fight probably won't happen though because the payoffs aren't worth actually contesting it if you're weaker. Don't get me wrong, pro teams still rightly prioritize them in the game because they extend your lead, but gone are the days of actually team fighting over them. I hate complaining and not giving any solutions, but due to time requirements, I'm just going to be another crybaby for now. I think everything I just mentioned is more important to the state of the game than the long death timers, and for these reasons, I'm ashamed of the Reddit blame. And I'm ashamed of myself for putting that in the script and actually reading it out loud. Finally, moving on to other topics, Soaz pulled a lot of hate in his games for frequently getting caught out of position. Now, even world-class top laners will get picked off in a long lane sometimes, but the rate that it was happening to Soaz was a little surprising. Worst among these was the game where TSM had Baron and had a clearly telegraphed rotation coming to the bot lane. Soaz doesn't back off the turret, dies, and ends up giving up the inhib for it. Reddit got this one right. Origin's Sven also caught some flack for his positioning in a certain game. Let's play our own game called Guess Which AD Carry rounds out this composition. We've got a Nautilus, an Elise, a LeBlanc, a Thresh, and it looks like we got a pretty good pick comp going out here. So which marksman would you pick to round out this comp? If you pick Kog'Maw, then you're crazy, or on Origin, or potentially both. Kog'Maw is extremely hard to play in a comp with no peel. Origin first picked the Kog'Maw, so it's not like they couldn't have picked a better comp around it, and you can't blame Sven for last pick deciding that the Kog'Maw would work in the pick comp. The last thing I'll touch on is RNG's macro game. Now, this kind of blew up on Twitter and looks like it might become its own meme, but honestly, their macro game wasn't that good. They did have a good 2v1 in Game 2 versus Fnatic, which is perfect for their comp because they're looking to scale up. Having said that, come mid-game, they started losing turrets all over the map. In fact, they were down turrets almost every single game that they played. For these reasons, Reddit wins this round. That's it for this week's episode of The Blame Game. We'll be back with your regularly scheduled NALCS episodes next week. I just want to say quickly though, for those of you who think I need to work on my charisma and enthusiasm, you can go leave a comment below. I'll see you next week.
You guys ready for my sellout voice? Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It would mean so much to me if you could show your support. Thank you.